Good evening. I hope you all had a great Tuesday. Today the market fell as it experienced a large sell-off near the close. The Nasdaq fell the most by far, as it ended the day down 1.27% due to a late sell-off in big tech names. The Dow fell a lighter 0.77%. The S&P 500 ended the day down 0.65%. Negotiations regarding the coronavirus relief started yesterday. Democrat Schumer said, quote, "Unfortunately, we're pretty far apart right now, although I'm optimistic we could have a good solution at the end," end quote. When asked if he believed if a deal could be reached by the end of the week, he said, quote, "I hope so, and that's what we're working for. We'll sit down. We're going to sit down again today. We'll sit down 24/7, end quote. Republican Senator Pat Toomey had different opinions, as he said, quote, "Republicans are going to be divided on this one," end quote. As many GOP lawmakers oppose the plan as written now, and it is expected that they will resist concessions the White House makes to earn Pelosi's support. When asked when he believed a deal would be reached, he said, quote, "I imagine it's probably another week or two," end quote. The big areas of dispute between Democrats and Republicans will likely include jobless benefits, aid for state and local governments, liability protections for businesses, and rent, mortgage, and food assistance. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said, quote, "We're not negotiating over liability protection," end quote, as he is firm on including it in the bill. Some are worried about the potential economic impact due to the cut in unemployment insurance payments. In the case of a reduction to $300, the GDP impact would be just over 1%, or about $217.5 billion, and increase the unemployment rate by 0.5%, according to Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's Analytics. In his worst-case scenario, with no extended benefits, Zandi sees a GDP decline of 1.27%, or $273 billion, and a job loss of 1.13 million. He said, quote, "Letting enhanced UI expire or even renew at a lower amount would be a meaningful hit to the economy. The disincentives to work created by the large $600 in enhanced UI appear to be small, at least so far," end quote. Tom Gerritsen, senior portfolio strategist at RBC Wealth Management, said, quote, "The big risks for markets and the economy is Congress thinks the recovery has taken hold and it can pull back on support, where everybody else knows we need to stay vigilant and fight through this recession," end quote. Dr. Fauci issued a warning about another potential outbreak in the United States. He said the positivity rate is beginning to climb in Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee, and Kentucky. The positivity rate is an early indicator for an outbreak, according to Fauci. Kentucky and Ohio both reported a record number of COVID-19 hospitalizations on Monday, based on a 7-day average. Restaurant transactions have plateaued as many states begin to shut down and restrict restaurant activity. So far during the pandemic, full-service restaurants have been hit the hardest, as quick-service restaurants such as fast food restaurants have been able to rely on drive-through lanes to drive sales, and they also benefit from the cheap deals that cash-strapped consumers can take advantage of. However, full-service restaurants have seen their transactions come back quicker as states begin to reopen. Today, Pfizer CEO shared his opinions on Trump's executive orders targeted at lowering the price of medicine for Americans. Pfizer CEO warned that, quote, "They pose enormous destruction in a time when the industry needs to be completely focused on developing a potential COVID-19 vaccine or treatment," end quote. Only 3 sectors ended in the green, as telecommunications and utilities gained more than 1.1%, and financials eked out just a marginal gain. Basic materials were hammered, as the sector fell more than 2.3%. Oil and gas also lost close to 2%. From the table, we can see that growth was hit the hardest today by far. Notably, every basket of stocks ended in the red. However, as a whole, value and core were far stronger than growth. The best day in the S&P 500 was had by Norwegian Cruise Lines, as shares gained 6.20%. As was the case yesterday, there was no catalyst for the gain made by the cruise liner. The runner-up was healthcare REIT Ventas, which had shares gain 5.01%. This move was made after investors moved into REITs today due to bond yields falling and investors flocking to find other sources of yield. The biggest loser was Lamb Weston Holdings, which is a frozen potato product producer. Shares fell nearly 11.5% as the company missed big on earnings. They reported a non-GAAP EPS loss of a cent, as analysts were expecting a gain of 16 cents per share for the quarter. Revenue managed to beat estimates, but not by that much. However, their CEO did say that demand for frozen potato products is beginning to come back as states open up. They were largely affected by the fall in revenue from restaurants, which was down 44% compared to a year ago. The other loser was National Oilwell Varco, which is an oil and gas equipment provider. Today, shares fell 11.01% as they missed on earnings estimates, albeit revenue did not miss by much. Shares really fell after their earnings call, where they suspended their dividend and lacked any sort of optimism for the future, as they are experiencing a huge lack of demand for their products, since there have been hardly any oil and gas operations active. Getting into earnings, we'll start off with 3M, ticker symbol MMM, which manufactures a variety of products, such as Post-it notes and Scotch tape, just to name a few. This morning, 3M missed estimates, but not by a substantial margin. Non-GAAP EPS only missed by a cent, as they finished the quarter with a gain of $1.78 per share. Revenue missed by a large margin, as they finished the quarter with revenue of $7.18 billion, which missed estimates by $110 million, and represented a decline in revenue by 12.1% on a yearly basis. To make matters worse, organic growth came in far lower than what was expected. The company stated that they believed they had strong execution for the quarter, which led them to having good cash flow for the uncertain environment. They also held back forecasting future earnings due to the uncertainty of the pandemic. Investors did not like this news and had shares end the day down 4.85%. Next up, we have McDonald's, ticker symbol MCD, which is the most popular fast food restaurant in the world. They also had pretty bleak earnings this morning. Non-GAAP EPS missed estimates by a disappointing 10 cents, as they finished the quarter with a gain of 66 cents per share. Revenue managed to beat estimates, albeit only by a minuscule $30 million, as revenue totaled $3.76 billion and represented a decline of 29.6% on a yearly basis. Comparable sales fell 23.9% in the second quarter to miss the consensus expectation for a drop of 22.8%, partially driven by weakness with the breakfast daypart traffic. Shares ended the day in the red by 2.49%. Next up, we have Pfizer, ticker symbol PFE, which is a pharmaceutical company. They happened to post a double beat this morning. Non-GAAP EPS topped estimates by 12 cents, as they recorded a gain of 78 cents for the quarter. Revenue fell by 11% on a yearly basis and only beat estimates by $250 million, but still came in at a strong $11.8 billion. The company also raised their earnings guidance for fiscal year 2020 and are currently higher than analysts' expectations. All this good news compiled into a gain of 3.94% for Pfizer. Next up, we have Altria, ticker symbol MO, which is one of the world's largest tobacco companies. This morning's earnings were mixed. Non-GAAP EPS beat estimates by only 3 cents, as they posted a gain of $1.09 per share. Revenue fell only 2.5%, as they accumulated revenue of $5.06 billion for the quarter, which did miss estimates, but by only $20 million. The company did raise their dividend and is currently yielding 8.17% on a yearly basis. Shares ended the day in the green by 0.93%. Next up, we have Raytheon Technology, ticker symbol RTX, which is an aerospace and defense company. Raytheon had strong earnings, as they had a nice double beat. Non-GAAP EPS beat estimates by a large 28 cents, as they posted a gain of 40 cents per share. Revenue was up an astounding 26% on a yearly basis, as they recorded revenue of $14.28 billion, which beat estimates by $890 million. RTX did end in the red, but only by 0.15%. Next up, we have Starbucks, ticker symbol SBUX, which is the immensely popular coffee shop. Starbucks posted strong earnings this afternoon. Non-GAAP EPS beat estimates by 15 cents, but did record a loss of 46 cents per share. Revenue was down a terrible 38.1%, but was still a strong $4.22 billion and did beat estimates by a very small $80 million. Investors took these earnings well, and shares are currently up 3.3% after hours. Next up, we have AMD, ticker symbol AMD, which is a semiconductor company. This afternoon's earnings were strong. Non-GAAP EPS beat estimates by just a cent, as the company recorded a gain of 18 cents per share. Revenue managed to be up 26.1% on a yearly basis, as they recorded revenue of $1.93 billion, but beat estimates by only $70 million. Their beat was driven by enterprise, embedded, and semi-custom strength. Shares are flying upwards by close to 10% after the strong earnings and strong future guidance. Lastly, we have Visa, ticker symbol V, which is a large provider of credit cards, debit cards, and prepaid cards. Visa's earnings were pretty much in line with expectations. Non-GAAP EPS was a gain of $1.06 per share, which beat estimates by only 2 cents. Revenue missed by an insignificant $10 million, as they recorded revenue of $4.84 billion and represented a decline in revenue of 17.1% on a yearly basis. The company pointed to strong growth in e-commerce, tap-to-pay, new flows, and value-added services. They also said even though underlying business drivers declined on a yearly basis due to the pandemic, they are improving each month. Shares are currently down nearly 2% after earnings. That is all that I have for tonight. Looking forward to tomorrow, we have earnings from Boeing, Shopify, General Electric, Spotify, and General Motors. I hope you all have a nice rest of your night. I'll see you again tomorrow.